Welcome back to the Choosing None podcast. I'm Laura Catherine Etheridge, and I am very glad today to have with me as a guest Sharon Barfield. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Laura. I'm very happy to be here today.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good to have you. And I know I had asked you a little while back if you'd be willing to share your story, and you graciously said, yes, I would be willing to come and share my story. And I've had the chance to get to know you and your hubby Bill through church, which has been really special. And I could see your heart for the Lord from some of our early interactions in small group and some of those things. So anyway, I appreciate you coming and sharing.
Absolutely.
What's life look like in your world in this season? And then we'll kind of go tell the story.
Okay. Well, in this season, I am fully retired, and I laugh. My husband likes to tell people that I was born to be retired.
Oh,
He when I first started talking about it, he was like, "Aren't you going to be bored?" I'm like, "Oh no, no.
I can do this.
I can do this. I am not bored."
Uh,
So we're just enjoying. He's kind of sort of retired, but not quite. Can't as he tells people he stood too close to the vortex and got sucked back in a little bit. So he's still a part-time worker, but he has pretty much control of his schedule. So we have done quite a bit of traveling. Just got back from a fabulous trip to Australia. And I volunteer for a number of organizations in our sweet little town of Beaufort here. So I do tours with the Beaufort Historic Association and work doing a little bit of volunteering for our local maritime museum and part of the Beaufort Women's Club. And so we do a lot of philanthropic work through that. And of course, I really just enjoy sitting on my back porch with my morning coffee and devotional or a good book and spending the day
and enjoying the retired life when you're not out there.
That's right,
with
my
working
sweet
and volunteering
sweet little black lab curled up next to me.
Yeah, and it's a great porch. You have a great space, and I love too that you said that's where I like to sit out with my quiet time. A lot of times out there. So, well, how did you come to know Jesus? What age were you, and how did that unfold?
Well, I like probably some of your guests that you've had before. Actually, grew up in the church. My parents were divorced when my sister and I were very young, and so we spent all of our childhood either right next door to or living with my maternal grandparents, who were very instrumental in, getting us involved in church. So we were all kids ministry, youth ministry, church camps, etc. And so I've always known the Lord.
Yeah.
I would say it was probably not until after college when I moved out on my own for really the first time. Not only did I move out of the house, I moved out of the state.
Oh, wow, a big move.
So yes, little Southern girl moved to Chicago, which was a bit of a culture shock.
No kidding.
But one of the things that I did almost immediately, because somehow in the back of my mind, I just knew I needed it, was I found a church. And even though I had moved to Chicago because I was following a boy, and his family was Catholic, but I wasn't comfortable, going to mass with them because that just wasn't a tradition that I really understood. And so I found a Presbyterian church. That's what I had grown up in. And that became my anchor. And really started to explore a little bit more what it meant to have a relationship with God. And then I was in Chicago for about 5 years and then made a move for work down to Kansas City. And after the experience in Chicago, I knew that that's what I needed to do. So I found another church family. And in all of these places, they truly did become my family. Because when I moved out of North Carolina, I moved to places where I had no family. And except for my boyfriend in Chicago, had no friends. And so the churches that I joined became very, very important to me. And so I think it was at those 2 points in my life where I really started to explore a little bit more deeply what it meant to have a relationship with Christ and to really rely on that when things got tough.
Yeah. What do you sense was happening kind of in your walk with the Lord that made you interested in exploring deeper?
Um, well, I think as most young people do when they get away from home for the first time, and you're making your own decisions. Some of them good, some of them not so good. Some of them lead to not so good outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And you fall back. My husband likes to say, in training, you fall back on your lowest level of training. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's like I started to fall back on what I had heard growing up through the church.
Mm.
If things are really rough and you don't know what to do, pray about it. Read your Bible.
Yeah.
Now, at that point in my life, I was much more into the pray about it than the read and study
Mm.
the Bible.
Mhm.
But I would get that sense of peace
Mhm.
just knowing that I wasn't in this alone, even
Yeah.
if I didn't really understand what was happening and what I really needed to do to make things better.
Mhm.
I still had a sense of peace that if I just tried to follow,
Yeah.
the right path, tried to,
Yeah.
surround myself
Mhm.
with people who would lift me up and not try to
Yeah.
drag me down, that things would eventually be
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, and it's neat to me having done a number of these episodes just to see how the Lord in different seasons there's different like tools that seem to have really drawn people. And so it sounds like in that season for you, a lot of it was people in the community
Mm-hmm.
that was like very instrumental, but then also that just praying about what was going on in your life, those were really big parts of those two seasons
Yeah,
for
it
you.
really was. And, I or meeting people. I mean, when you're growing up in the church, you've got all of these
Mhm.
adults who are, telling you that this is what you should do and this is how you should do it. And,
Mhm.
but when and I actually had one of these experiences actually when I was still in high school, when you meet a peer
Yeah.
who is telling you those things. It, especially as a young person, it just carries a little bit more weight than something, all these old people are telling you
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was my first time having young people my age
Mm.
who were walking that walk and
Mhm.
willing to share with
Mhm.
me
Mhm.
and to guide me,
Mhm.
and so it's like, okay, this isn't just something for old married people or
Mhm.
grandparents. This is
Mhm.
something that,
Mhm. Mhm.
somebody like me
Yeah, yeah.
can
Well,
actually use.
and I'm imagining too, because myself having moved some, it's like when you don't have family there and you don't really start out with friends, you're immersed in that culture, and then when you start having people that are your age that you're doing life with, because
Mhm.
you're going to church together,
Right.
you're learning, but then you're also like dialoguing about life and what's going on, and it is when we have people that are speaking things to us that are also biblically based. It's like these are the
Right.
values that we see in the Bible. This is what God's saying. That's a big deal. Very influencing
It
for us.
is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what happened after Kansas?
So when I was in Kansas, my sister got married.
Mhm.
And she was living in California at the time because her husband, who was in the Navy, was at the Naval Postgraduate School there in Monterey. And so that's where they
Mm.
got married.
Okay.
And so I, went out to California for the wedding. And as sometimes happens when you're least expecting it, I met a guy at my sister's wedding.
Yeah, which is like the best story.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where we're at the same parties
Yeah.
for a week. And by the end of the week, it's like, wow,
Mm.
this, I like this guy. And
Mhm.
I think he likes me and I think he gets me. And,
Mhm.
the problem was, that he had orders, to Bahrain. And so he was going to be gone
Yeah.
for a year.
Yeah.
And that was going to be challenging, but I
Mhm.
thought, well, I think this could still be, a good thing. And so I flew back home to Kansas City and told my roommate, my girlfriends, I've met the man I'm going to marry. And of course, they thought I had lost my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'd only been gone for a week.
Yeah.
But we corresponded. He wrote me every single day when he
Wow.
was overseas. And he came home on leave 6 months later, and we got married.
Yes.
And-
Which is like so wild.
And he went back to Bahrain for another 6 months, and
Yeah.
I planned a wedding.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're okay to share it and the wildness of the story, because like you were like people didn't know that y'all.
No one
gotten
except my roommate and my other friend in Kansas City
Yeah.
knew that we were married because
Yeah.
they witnessed the
Yeah.
the service or the ceremony at the Justice of the Peace. And so I spent the next 6-7 months planning a wedding. Me and my best friend in North Carolina planning this wedding, and then had a big wedding in the church that I had been baptized in.
Yeah.
And actually kind of forgot to tell friends and family for a few years that actually we were already married.
Yeah.
at
Well,
our
and maybe
wedding.
for context to share for the viewers, what prompted you guys to go ahead and get married before you had the big church wedding? Because there was a reason
We
you guys
did.
decided like let's do the double wedding deal.
Yeah, let's do the double wedding. And since we've done this, we've come to learn that this is not that unusual, particularly among the military crowd. But I'm living in Kansas City. Bill had all his worldly possessions at his parents' house in North Carolina, and if we got married, then the Navy would move my household goods to wherever it is we ended up when he came back from Bahrain, and he got money for me living in a separate location from him. So, it seemed like a good deal at the time. Now, again, my roommate and my friend who were witnesses at our wedding were kind of, I think, holding their breath thinking, what is she doing? She's only known this man for 6 months and she's only spent like 3.5 weeks face to face with
this
him.
guy. Yeah.
With him.
Yeah.
But, you can learn a lot about a person when they write you, multiple page letters every day.
Yeah.
And he was able to call a few times while he was there. And, I tell my friends, it seems cliche to say, but when you know.
Yeah.
And, he used to tell, he would tell me, he's like, before, he's like the week before he graduated, he's like, Lord, if it's meant to be, I want you to, show me the woman I'm going to marry. And he's like, and then you showed up. Because the other thing that I didn't mention is when I flew into San Francisco for the week-long festivities, my sister and brother-in-law were supposed to come get me, and they couldn't at the last minute. And so I say Bill drew the short straw and was the friend who was designated to drive to San Francisco and pick me up.
You up. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it kind of got started.
And that's how it all kind of got started.
Yes. Yes.
He picked me up. He showed me around San Francisco, took me to dinner, and then drove me back down to Monterey.
Yes. And little did either of you know, but that's where it all.
Yep. Had no idea. It was just some guy from North Carolina who was coming to pick me up.
Yeah. Yeah. How has he or that then getting married? How did that with the Lord? What happens in your walk with him through all that?
Well, it really only deepened. I mean, Bill is and has been a very, very faithful man. I mean, like me, he grew up in the church, so it wasn't new to him. And he really, when he was in California, I think his faith walk really deepened there. He discovered a pastor that he really, really liked and kind of really connected with. And so when we got married, it was just as important to him as it was to me that we find a church home. Now we ended up in the DC area
Mm-hmm.
when he came back from Bahrain, and it was a struggle to find a church that we were both comfortable with. You know, I had grown up in the Presbyterian church. Bill had grown up in a Baptist church, and so we laugh. We say we tried every flavor in the Northern Virginia area, and ultimately landed at a large Presbyterian church in Vienna.
Mm.
And then we were in Vienna for a couple of years, and then, like most young people, decided perhaps we should invest in some real estate, and so we bought a home and in a suburb a little further out,
Mm.
and ironically ended up finding a church where the pastor had been best friends with the pastor
Oh,
in
wow.
Vienna. We had no idea.
Huh.
Um, and was just an amazing, amazing place. And I mean,
Mm.
they were our family. We were
Mm.
there for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
And those folks were our family, and
Mm.
we really did life together.
Yeah.
We were part of small groups that we absolutely loved, and now most of our friends from that church have since retired and moved away from there, but we still get together
Mm.
about
Mm.
once a year with
Yeah.
a core group
Yeah.
because they really did become our family and really were instrumental in helping us
Mm.
deepen our faith.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
we have all walked through some, you know, life situations together.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, and for somebody who's watching, who's hearing this piece about how much church, like in multiple parts of your life, that church community just ended up being very instrumental in your walk with the Lord and your growth.
Absolutely.
What would you say to people who maybe are watching and thinking about how would I do that, or why would I plug into that? Like, you've experienced it. How would you encourage them with why they would plug into a community like that? How do you decide to open up to church people that you don't know at first?
Right. Well, it's difficult. I mean, my husband and I are both technically, although nobody believes it, introverts.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
go into a group of people
Yeah.
that maybe you don't really know
Mm-hmm.
other than to say hello to on a Sunday morning, and share deeply personal things
Yeah.
is challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I s- I would advise somebody who's kind of new to that idea to not be uncomfortable about taking it slowly.
Yeah.
You know, you may start out in a group just listening,
Mm-hmm.
and what you will probably find out is that thing you're going through that you can't imagine anybody else has ever been through or is currently going through. Somebody actually is or has been there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, we every time we come to a crisis situation, we always feel like, nobody's ever experienced this badly or in this way. But I think you'll be surprised. I mean, the church is not a group of perfect people
No, it's not.
by any stretch of the
Mm-hmm.
imagination. It is the church is a microcosm of the culture, and you're going to have people in there who have been through
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of things. It's like the joke around here is there are two kind of boaters: those who've run aground, those who haven't yet, or those who lie about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a good way of putting it.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, because
Yeah.
we've all been through things.
Mm-hmm.
We've probably all got skeletons in our closet. We've all got
Mm-hmm.
things that we have shoved so far down
Mm-hmm.
um, that we can't imagine bringing it back up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're in a really good group, the folks are there not to pass judgment, but
Yeah.
to walk alongside and offer encouragement
Yeah.
and help. And
Yeah.
and especially for someone like us who, and this applies to a lot of military families as well, who are always living someplace where they don't have family.
Yeah.
That sense of family connection for us was very important.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't grow close to your family members by staying away and holding everything in.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
share,
Yeah.
you lean on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're the supporter, and sometimes you're the one being supported, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just
Mm-hmm.
that's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's a really great point for people, especially introverts, to realize it's okay to go into community and not talk a bunch at the beginning. And it's totally okay to just go and get a feel for a group.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sounds like, for what you're saying, you're letting others share, but then you're starting to hear we have something in common. We
Right.
have they're being open and vulnerable. We have something we could connect around, and it like grew gradually, the
Absolutely.
level of comfort and openness. But then over time, it sounds like those relationships became very rich, very comfortable, very safe,
Yep.
and it just got richer and richer with time. A lot of
Absolutely.
those, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So what else happens for you in the 25 years at that church? Like what else happens with your walk with the Lord, or just other practices that maybe just helped you in the growth with him?
Well, I think what we what we come to realize, and I think this is not unusual for people
Mm.
as they go along their faith journey. We started out looking for churches that would feed us. We that would supply what we needed.
Mm.
Over time, of course, we still want a church that feeds us,
Mhm.
absolutely, whether it's
Sure.
with preaching, teaching, whatever. But over time, as you grow a little bit more spiritually mature, that kind of shifts,
Yeah.
and now you're looking for opportunities to serve others. And for me, I'm um, I'm a hands-on service person. That's what I love to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I spent my career managing and having to think critically and
Yes.
doing that sort of stuff. So when it came to serving, um, I didn't want to have to do any of that. I wanted to get then and roll my sleeves up
Mhm.
and so being able to work with Habitat for Humanity,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
work with one of the local homeless day shelters and, providing meals or, now I was never brave enough, although I had certainly had friends who would go into those places and lead a Bible study
Mhm.
with folks who have probably never even seen a Bible.
Yeah.
But those
Yeah.
types of opportunities where you are using your God-given gifts and talents
Yeah.
to help others. And
Yeah.
for me, that's kind of where I am in this season of life now.
Yes.
Um,
Very
you
much.
know, I I have the time. I have been incredibly
Yeah.
blessed to be able to retire at a relatively early age,
Mhm.
and now that's what I want to do. I want to
Yeah.
use my time
Mhm.
to serve and to
Mhm.
help others. And I
Mhm.
think that's just an
Mhm.
outgrowth of
Mhm.
that spiritual development.
And it's neat how it helps us to grow too. It's like there's
Oh,
a point that I think we all get to in that walk with the Lord, that if we want to really continue to grow like at a decent clip, it's like there's something that you can only get from getting involved and serving and helping other people and using
yeah,
your gifts. It's like you're pouring out, but somehow God is pouring in, and you're really growing through that whole process. And I don't know, it's so wild to me. I was thinking about even this weekend. It's like a lot of times when you think, "Oh, I'm going to go do and give and serve," He does so much in you, and
absolutely.
even through those people, that it's like, "Well, I thought I was going to go be a blessing," and we are, but He uses it in our life, and we keep growing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things that I got the most joy out of was our church had, and they still have it,
Mhm.
um, an ESL ministry. In the Northern
Yeah.
Virginia area, it's just a real hodgepodge of
Yeah.
folks coming from all different
Mhm.
cultures, backgrounds, etc. And their folks come over with their children, and their children get into the school, they get assimilated, they learn English, and it's so much easier
Mhm.
for a young person.
Yeah.
But we had a ministry for adult ESL learners.
Mm.
And I was able to volunteer with that ministry for several years, and it was wonderful. I mean, I met the most interesting people from all different areas, and it's cool. You know, they some of them come in with very little English speaking ability.
Yeah.
Others come in with a little bit more. But you're meeting people who might actually have PhDs in their native country, but you know they don't have a good grasp of English, and so it's difficult for them to find work and to do life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just going to the grocery store can be a challenge.
Yes.
And so it was incredibly rewarding for me to be able to spend time, you know, helping them, teaching them, you know, something that I know.
And do you feel like there's things you learn from them because you're pouring into
Oh.
them, but you're exposed to all these cultures?
Absolutely.
What did you see kind of coming back to you through that experience and that helped you grow, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think just, you know, the experiences, some of them came from horrid situations.
Yes.
Many of them didn't. Many
Yes.
of them were just, you know, looking for a better life, but didn't really experience trauma. But you know, they all had a rich history, and I would learn so much about the different countries they came from and the food. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Lovely
Yeah,
opportunities
which
to
you love to
experience.
cook, which is like
I love to cook,
yes,
so this
yeah.
was a beautiful thing. But I think just, you know, understanding how people who have been through just horrendous things can come out of that on the other side, you know, and you know what they lean on and rely on.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody who came through these ESL classes was Christian or even had any kind of faith.
Sure.
But you know, people are resilient.
They are.
People are incredibly resilient, and so it was just fun to listen to these stories and to realize that, you know, you think things are going rough in your life, or you think you're in a bad situation. You know, it's all relative. It is
Yeah.
all relative.
Yeah, I feel like it does. It gives so much perspective, and
Yeah.
even I think of clients I work with that are from other nations, and every one of them that I've worked with, it's really blessed me and grown me to hear their stories, to see what they've done. I mean, the respect I have for them, like to come to a new
Absolutely.
nation to do what they're doing. It's like wow, it's a lot. You have quite the Bible study practice these days. Because you shared, you know, kind of early in your story, maybe not as much Bible, a lot of prayer, a lot of community. How did that develop for you? Like, and what helped you grow, do you think, to have that level of just consistency at this point in that practice?
Well, I think part of it comes from um, I wanted to be able to answer questions, or if I got pushback, I wanted to be able to really
Mm,
know,
mm,
you know, how to react or how to respond. Um, and it's just it's a wonderful book,
yeah.
you know, and there are many different versions, you know, some of it easier than others, but it's a, I really wanted to understand more rather than, I don't like necessarily taking somebody's word for it.
Yeah.
So as much as I have loved the pastors that I've had,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's not that I don't believe you, but I want to be able to know for myself, where can I find this? How do I find this? What does it really say? And what does it say in these different versions? And how do you reconcile
Yes.
those?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's interesting to me how, despite different versions, there's that common thread
Mm-hmm.
again in all of them.
Yes.
And if you search hard enough, you can find it.
Yeah.
But it's not been an easy thing for me to get into a regular routine. And I will say that, you know, when I was working, it was really hard
Yeah.
to get into it. I mean, I think having my weekly meetings with our growth group, which is what we now call community groups at our current church, you know, that forced you was helpful, because then I knew
Yes.
at least I was preparing for that. So I was doing some reading, but I mean, anybody who's ever lived and worked in the DC area knows that,
Yeah.
you spend an awful lot of time in your car, or on public transit getting back and forth, to work. And so they were really, really long days, and,
Yes.
you're tired, and it's hard. It's not hard. It's easy to find reasons not
Mm.
to
Yeah.
do regular Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
So um, once we started working from home a little bit more, it became a little bit easier because you weren't spending, 3 or 4 hours a day in your car just
Yeah.
trying to get back and forth to work. Um, and certainly when COVID hit and we were home all the time,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah. Much
became
easier. Yeah.
became much easier.
Yeah.
And of course, now that I'm retired, I
Mm-hmm.
tell myself I have zero excuse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can make my own time, and I
Mm.
do now.
Yeah.
And so for me now, my mornings that's my quiet time.
Mm.
I love, even in the winter, I was out there on my porch this morning. I love
Mm-hmm.
just sitting outside. I listen to the birds. I listen to the
Mm.
certain times of year I can still hear the waves crashing on the
Mm-hmm.
shore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love
Yeah.
being out there,
Mm-hmm.
with my Bible, with my little study guide,
Mm.
and my dog,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping my seat warm when it is cold out there.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy
Mm.
spending that time,
Mm.
reading, understanding. Now, I will say that one of my goals for this year
Mm.
is to spend a little bit more time actually studying
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
opposed to just reading.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on my second pass going
Mm-hmm.
Genesis to Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
And I've enjoyed that, and I
Yeah.
find, every time I read something, I get a different
Mm-hmm.
thing out
Mm-hmm.
of it,
Yeah.
which I
The
think
Bible's amazing how
it
it
is
is.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
whatever you need today, that's what you're going to see,
Yeah. Yeah.
in that passage. But I don't want to get caught up in going through the Bible
Mm-hmm.
just for the sake of saying I've read through
Mm-hmm.
the Bible,
Yeah.
but actually spending a little bit more time,
Mm-hmm.
in study and reflection on what it is I'm reading and
Mm-hmm.
what it means for me today,
Mm-hmm.
or this week, or in this stage of life, or in this
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm. So really like taking it slow enough that you can then study or expand from what you're reading, but also the meditation part of like what is the Lord speaking to me
Right,
with what you're reading in the text. And
right.
yeah, yeah. And it is neat too that the Bible is so that way. It's like the more time we spend in it, even though it's a familiar passage at times, it's like new things come to life.
Yeah.
It never gets old. And we're
Mm-mm.
always, it's interesting to me because studying the Bible, um, it's like a lot like exercise. We're always glad after we do it. Like we're
Right.
always glad and
Yes.
and so thankful that we spent the time, but developing the practice of it, it takes some intentionality
Yeah,
to
it
get
takes
there.
discipline, like you said, just
Yes.
like exercise, because
Yes.
and once you stop, it's
Mhm.
hard to get started again. So it's
Mhm.
best just not to stop.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like exercise, you
Yeah,
keep
just
going.
like
You
exercise,
keep
just don't
going.
stop.
Yeah. So if you could say something to the younger version of you, now that you've walked with the Lord for a while and you've experienced what you have, what advice would you give to that version, or maybe somebody who finds himself in an earlier part of your story?
You know, I I wish that I had, um I don't know if paid more attention to, but made more of an effort
Mm,
to, seek out those groups when I was younger who could help
mm,
me
mm,
with this walk. I'm incredibly impressed, by the young people
mm.
that were in my old church in Virginia, in particular, because I was closer to them.
Sure.
But um, their statements of faith and their visible walks with God were something
Yeah.
that I don't know when I was in high school if anyone other than the friends that I was in youth group with at church would necessarily have known
Mm.
how close I was to Christ and how much
Yeah.
that meant to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I look at these young people in the church today. I have another friend whose daughter has for many years led a Greek IV chapter
Mm.
where she is ministering to young women and men
Mm.
in the Greek system on a college campus, and it's like the and so I know that those groups existed when I was in
Yeah.
college, but it wasn't something that I
Mm-hmm.
sought.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't I wasn't seeking that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish, not that I would have done that to the exclusion of all the other fun stuff I did in college, but I mean that
Mm-hmm.
could have been
Mm.
I think could have given me a foundation that might have helped me avoid some pitfalls
Mm-hmm.
in those early years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just
Yeah.
trusting that I didn't have to do it all on my own.
Yeah.
You know, I I came from a broken home. There were some difficult things in my life growing up, and I felt like I kind of had to become an adult a lot earlier than my peers. Um, and and that kind of got me into this. If anything good's going to happen, I'm going to have to do it
Mm.
myself. Which in the one hand is good. I mean, it motivates you, and
Sure.
but on
Mm-hmm.
the other hand, I think it gives you a false sense of I don't need anybody else. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need,
Mm-hmm.
and so I wish that I had a little bit more discernment and insight that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not in this alone and I
Mm.
never was.
Yeah, and to maybe have seen that and to have pushed into that potential belief a little earlier where it's
Yeah.
like I'm not by myself. It doesn't all depend on me. I
Mm-mm.
can open up and other people are in this place and then to see what would that maybe
Exactly.
be like even though you
Exactly.
feel alone. And I love what you said earlier about but just going into a group and not feeling like you have to talk right away, even if you're
Absolutely.
feeling like that sense of little
Y-
insecure, uncomfortable, it's okay to just go and just be present, get comfortable, and then you begin to find like I'm not by
Yeah.
myself.
Well, and also, that whole thing about being present, works in the other direction too. Sometimes when people are going through tough times,
Yeah,
they don't really need you there telling them, what you need
so
to
true.
do, or,
Yeah,
sometimes it's just
yeah, it is.
being present.
It is. It is. And I think it's walking through personally when we walk through things like that. It's like we learn just how much of a gift that is. Someone's
Oh,
presence, they're listening, just being available to have coffee or lunch
exactly.
and not telling us what to do is
Yeah,
sometimes the most incredible community building thing that can
absolutely.
happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's neat. Thank you for sharing
You're
all of
welcome.
that. I really it means a lot and it's neat to hear people's stories and it's also been interesting to me recording a bunch of these now how people who have walked with the Lord for a while, all of them talk about what they're continuing to learn. Like I've not talked
Oh,
with anybody who feels like, I feel like I've arrived or I've got this thing down now and like I know exactly the formula. It's like it's a relationship. For
absolutely.
them it's a relationship and they're still like here's the next thing I'm doing with the Lord or what I feel like he's got for me this year and it's been neat to watch that with people. What do you think made you stay with the Lord? Like you've been in the church world a long time. If somebody's like, "But why Jesus? Why be with the Lord? Why walk with him?"
You know, I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, especially when you can look around and see, um, what it looks like when people aren't walking with the Lord.
Mm.
Um, and, just the, the pain that they often cause themselves, and certainly in many cases cause other people.
Mm.
Um, and I'm like, what's the downside? I mean, really, what's the downside? Um, Now having said that, I know that it's difficult for,
Mm.
people who don't know the Lord to understand, that. But, um, I can't imagine, like, I don't remember now who I was having this conversation with recently. But it's like, I, I don't fear being dead.
Mm.
Now I'm not a real fan of the thought of dying,
Yeah.
you know, but that's not the same thing to me because I
Mm-mm.
know, with utter confidence,
Yeah.
what's on the other side.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine what some of the things that people go through, how they go through it
Yeah.
without that assurance. And so it's important for me to lean into that
Mm.
regularly. Um, so I don't. For me, it's just what else is there?
Mhm. Yeah.
What's the alternative?
Yeah.
Um, and to the extent that I can articulate what an alternative is, it's not something I want to pursue.
Yeah. That's well put. It makes me think of like what Peter says, where he says to Jesus, where else would we go?
Yeah,
Who has the words of life? Like
exactly.
where else am
Well,
I going to go? And when you have what you have with the Lord, and it sounds like also in the world church, it's like with community and
yeah.
people and their presence and just the richness that brings to life. Like, why would I?
Why would I? It's not broke.
Yeah.
It's not broke. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
am I fixing here?
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know. It's always been a
Mm,
comfort for me. And I think even when I wasn't necessarily
mm,
as tuned in and aware, I think, and I do think that I am incredibly blessed to have had the foundation
yeah.
that I did growing up.
Yeah.
It gives me amazing, not insight, but it gives me, I'm very impressed with my friends who did not grow up
Yeah.
in the church. That kind of the fact that I'm just utterly amazed because it's like for me, it was just always there. So,
Hmm.
of course, this is this, but for somebody who didn't, to have that revelation or that realization, to me, is more impressive
Yeah.
than somebody like me who kind of grew
Hmm.
up with it.
Hmm.
Because it's like, yeah, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
you get it.
Hmm.
You know exactly what it is you have,
Yes,
but
because of what you didn't
because
before.
what you didn't,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know exactly.
Yeah. And it's so neat to me to see too in the church how the Lord puts people together where like you had that foundation and you bring that to the relationships that you have with them. And then they didn't have that growing up, but then their commitment to the Lord, their walk with the Lord and what you see there, it's like just amazing to me how God uses that community with
Absolutely.
mutual people with very different stories and the blessing, that creates for all of us in that. And I don't know, it almost makes me think too for people who maybe are listening or watching, it's like no matter where you are or what your background is, come into that community space.
Absolutely.
You have something that's going to bless people, even if maybe you think, well, my background isn't one that would fit in. It's like no, it means a lot
Absolutely it is.
to all of us. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that's been, I think Bill and I especially have appreciated the church that we're in now
yeah,
here in Beaufort. I
yeah,
mean, this is a church that has folks from literally
mhm,
all walks of life,
yes,
um, every sort of background, every sort of experience in life.
mm-hmm,
And to me, it's an incredibly rich
mm,
mixture
yeah,
of folks because, we've got folks who have been incredibly broken
yes,
who, have found healing.
mm-hmm,
And then
yeah,
you've got others who have just kind of been on a steady
mm-hmm,
path, which is kind of how I feel like I
mm-hmm,
am a
mm-hmm,
steady path their whole life. But we each have something
yeah,
to give
yeah.
to each other.
Yeah. And there's something incredible. I know you've been in a lot of really neat communities, and of course DC and a big career, and your husband's had a really big career and military and lots of communities you all have been in, but there is something, I know you and I would connect on this too. It's like there's something incredible about the church
There is.
when you bring people from all walks of life and cultures and who've lived all over the nation, some of them all over the world, and they come together around this central thing of Jesus Christ is the Lord. We're all going to lift him to the highest place. We believe the word of God. And what then unites this group of very different, very eclectic, very unique backgrounds together, it's like no other culture. There's
Yeah.
no other experience. And you've been in a lot of communities. I've been in a lot of different settings.
Yeah.
Nothing else feels like that.
I agree.
And there's this life that just, I don't know, like
Yeah.
it just permeates in that environment. And it's like bigger than all the parts that are there. Somehow it's like, the Lord is in the mix of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Thanks
You're
for being
welcome.
willing to let us in on kind of your journey and how the Lord just walked with you and opening up about all that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we have enjoyed being with all of you, and hope that encourages you, and just would encourage each of you, as Sharon has shared today, that wherever your life is, to lean in, especially with church and community and the things that maybe God's putting on your heart through hearing this. Don't let that first step keep you from taking it. Don't let the scariness of that keep you from taking it. God's going to meet you where you are, and there's a reason he's putting some of that on your heart. So we just encourage you to take that step, and hopefully this encourages you. Hope you have a great next few weeks. Thank you again, Sharon, for being here.
Thank you
And
for having me.
yeah, appreciate it, and look forward to being with all of you in a handful of weeks. See you next time.